I'd built up a following of about 355,000 followers. Early December, I believe it was, I made a fatal mistake. In retrospect, I've done nothing wrong. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. Right. Yeah, I am the infamous Mr. Mundoba, but my friends can call me Bax. I sort of came onto LinkedIn a little bit, just felt like it's corporate, it's boring. Came back years later, saw that things had changed a little bit. After a conversation with my partner, she just said, why are you going onto LinkedIn and trying to fit in? So I switched into some sort of corporate mode. And as soon as I stopped doing that, boom, attention, job offers. You could call it an interview, but it wasn't really a formal interview. It was just, we had a chat. It made it happen and it turned out well.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm the Digital Director at Spectrum Group. Our mission in life is to unlock the potential of your people. And we do that by combining three things: hardware, software, and expertise. Welcome to the podcast. As usual, I was joined by John Vanoom and Neil Wells. I was also joined by a very, very special guest, Bax Mundoba, who is the head of content and marketing at Spectrum Group. We talked about everything marketing and content. We talked about why Andy Warhol was right when he said that everybody will have their 15 minutes of fame. We talked about how Bax personally lost 300,000 followers overnight on his TikTok account. And we talked about why content marketing is now the only form of marketing that truly matters. As usual, if you're liking what we're doing, then please like, subscribe, and share. And with all that said, welcome to Tomorrow's Workplace Today. So welcome to Bax Mundoba.
Are you actually ready to go? Are you going? Yeah. Okay.
Now.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go again.
Sorry, I can't help it. You know, even from this side, I'm going to be micromanaging the situation.
Aren't you?
Yeah, I can't help it.
Love it. So, TikTok influencer, rock star, marketeer. I'm running out of terms. Bax,
or a nice guy.
Yeah. Do you want to do your own intro? You do a better job than me. So introduce yourself.
That was really good. That was a really good intro, actually. First, I need to start by correcting you.
Okay.
So we don't call ourselves marketeers. We're marketers. So a marketeer would be someone who works in a market.
Oh, really?
Like running a store.
Well, no, they're called market traders.
Yeah.
They're also. Do you want to Google it? Do you want to get your?
No.
Someone want to fact check? Can we throw this up on the screen? Throw this up on the screen when or if you're listening, Google it yourself.
I'm sure you were marketeers, but
back in your day.
Yeah.
It's quite a while ago. That one.
We started well. Right.
Yeah, I am the infamous Mr. Mundoba, but my friends can call me Bax. As you say, I've got a few followers on social media. I'm a former rock star, actually. As you know, you came to my final show. It was a good show, right?
It was excellent.
There was a lot of people.
Really good. Yeah.
Did you see?
I was front row, wasn't I?
You was,
yeah.
Which was really cute. It was like, I felt like it was like a proud dad moment for Steve. And I was looking down like, can you see me, Dad? Content wizard, head of marketing at Spectrum, and just general badass and wildcard. Really? Awesome. Yeah.
When you say you've got some followers, quantify that for me. How many have you got?
Couple of 100,000.
Wow. On what platforms?
TikTok and Instagram predominantly, and then I've got a few little stragglers on YouTube.
Amazing.
Yeah, I did used to have more.
Right.
As you know.
Well, I only found out a few minutes ago. So yeah, go on, tell us the story then. So
you only found out a few minutes ago?
Yeah. I've not heard this story.
Are you doing?
No, I'm not.
No, I only found out 2 minutes ago.
I thought we'd been through this.
No.
You must know the story. Yeah.
No, I don't know the story. Go on.
For me and the listeners.
Okay. See, this is gonna throw my judgment into question, but basically, I discovered TikTok about 2 years ago. When it was quite popular, but it was like relatively still like fresh. Like people were kind of discovering it, taking it seriously. TikTok, formerly Musically, which was for 8 and 9 year olds wanting to lip sync to songs. They're still on there doing that, but I'm there as well. So, so I'd built up a following of about 355,000 followers. Things were going great. I was loving life. I was getting ready to just quit this whole marketing thing and just become a full-time influencer. Brilliant. And then around about, I'd say early December, I believe it was, I made a fatal mistake, crucial error. So you'll know this, but for the fogies in the room, there's a platform called Omegle. There's a platform called Omegle, which is similar to Chat Roulette. And if you don't know what Chat Roulette is, essentially it's video cams on cycle. So like, say you're on it and I'm on it, and we can just like cycle next. And then if we land on each other and we like the conversation, we can have a little chat. So really cool. So I'd not been on it, but it was very popular on TikTok. People were making lots of videos about it. And I thought, I'm going to get in on this action. So let me do it. But because I'm so clever, let me live stream me doing it. Now, trying to keep things... What could go wrong? Now, again, so, some people might not understand, but Chat Roulette, and it turns out Omegle is the same, is prone to perverts. So you've got cameras cycling through. What could possibly appear every once in a while? But I was so just caught up and excited and like, I'm live streaming. I've got a couple of hundred people watching. I'm on Omegle. People are actually recognizing me on Omegle from my TikTok. So I just think I'm the guy, right? And then I remember it like it was yesterday. It felt like it happened in slow motion. I clicked next. I just had a really good chat with someone from America. It's like, yeah, have a great day, buddy. Click next. And like pixel by pixel almost, what can only be described as a glizzy popped up on the screen. And I sort of reacted, no, pulled my camera away, click next, but the damage was already done. Within about 10, 15 minutes, my live stream was cut off by TikTok. And then I received a notification, you're permanently banned from live streaming.
Wow.
And then 4 days later, I went to open my TikTok account and it said, you have been permanently banned from TikTok.
Wow.
So naturally, I was quite distraught. And it was near to Christmas and I was feeling sorry for myself. But being the pick myself up and keep winning type of guy that I am, I went home that day, made a new account and started the grind again. And within about 6 weeks, I was back up to 150,000 followers.
Wow.
But I'll be honest, it's jaded me. It took the wind out of my sails, and suddenly, like this need to be an influencer was massively diminished. So
how long has it taken you to build yourself back up to 150 or 200,000 followers?
So the initial 150 was done in about 6 weeks.
Right.
So essentially, what I did was I posted for about a week, just kind of moping and feeling sorry for myself.
Playing the feel sorry card.
No, because in retrospect, it was pathetic. Like, because I'd be like, posting, TikTok, why do this to me? And then I was like, no, pull yourself together. Like, you can build it back up again. You're a marketeer. So
Marketer.
there was a test. So I started grinding again. And I did this thing called I made this thing up called the 31 Day Content Challenge. So this was in January. So the aim was that every day I would post content and the amount of content I would post on that day would be the same as the day of the month that it was. So on day 1, I posted once. On day 5, I posted 5 times.
Wow.
On day 31, I posted 31 times in one day.
Should have done it in February, shouldn't
Yeah, so I posted like 500 pieces of content in that 1 month.
Wow.
And that took me from, I was maybe started off from about 10,000 because some of my people found out what was going on and they came and they supported and stuff. But basically went from 10,000 to 150,000 in a month by doing that.
How do you create that much content? Because you always tell us off, we need to post on LinkedIn every day, and we never do because we find it so hard to think, what do I post today that's interesting? So how do you create 500 bits of content in a month?
Yeah, so I wondered that before I started, but it turns out like the first week maybe or the first couple of days was tough, and I was kind of like I was kind of beating myself up about the quality of the content, but it turns out when you set yourself that sort of goal and you produce that much content, you actually start to stumble on these really cool ideas that you probably wouldn't have come up with if you were just doing once a day. So and also I got by say day 10, it was like, I can't really be thinking about, is the content great? Because I've essentially got to post a piece of content every hour through that day. So you just start, everything you see, it's like, you know, I was cutting a pepper and I was cutting a pepper and I remember cutting it and thinking, I've got a pretty cool technique in the way that I cut this pepper. So I thought, all right, I'll make a TikTok about it. And I was like, oh, this is like the most efficient way to cut a pepper. So, you know, to describe, I cut it like quite close to the top bit.
Yeah.
And then, you know, where the stalk is.
Yeah.
And then you can just like pop the stalk out.
Yeah.
It just pops out perfectly. So I just made a 15-second video. I mean, it got like 25,000 views.
Wow.
So,
Pepper.
yeah. So then I was like, all right, cool. So there's one.
I guess, Steve, you can do your
I'm intrigued by this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on TikTok after this.
Well, and that's the thing. You start to realize that like actually content is everywhere, but you've got to not obsess over the quality because I think that video that you sent made the perfect point about podcasts. Actually, a big majority of your success is consistency, not being the best or being the most talented. If you post 500 pieces of content, you're going to have at least one in that 500 that gets 1 million views. I mean, I probably had like 20 that got 1 million views in that.
20 out of the 500 bits in that month that you
got
did?
More than 1 million views, yeah.
Wow.
But like, I mean, all told and all combined, it must have been like in the 40 million sort of range, combined views.
I always fear though, if you just post one rubbish bit of content or one rubbish podcast, someone listens to it, watches it, and thinks, oh, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
You lose that person. Is that a kind of wrong fear? Should we not have that fear?
Yeah, you shouldn't have that fear. Yeah, because you're playing it's a scalable game. And also it's like Gary Vee, I'm sure we'll get to,
yeah.
but he often says, and don't get me wrong, I fall victim to this myself, and I argue with myself, and sometimes I've posted content and then if it doesn't really get the views that I want, I'll delete it out of like shame, essentially. But Gary Vee always says, well, if barely anyone sees it, then what does it matter? Like no one knows that it failed.
That's true.
People are, and everything's moving so quickly. I mean, the amount of content that's going up on all of these platforms every single day, for us to think that someone sat there going, Steve Motley, embarrassing. Yeah, exactly. What they do is they watch the first 2 seconds and they just go, see ya.
Kind of disposable content, isn't it?
Essentially, yeah. And that's the way to look at it, especially with a platform like TikTok. You know, ultimately, all of your content is there on your page for people to see at a later date if they want. But most people just spend their life on the For You page just scrolling.
Yeah.
So when you set your, building from the ground up again, so when you set your target of I'm going to do, that 31 days, is that actually how you're driven? So in as much, the question I have is, in as much as if you have a target, I'm going to do it for 31 days, I'm going to do 500, pieces of content. Is that how you're driven? As in, I need to have a goal and I need to get past this. And does that make your creativity better, stronger, or are you much more like, oh, that's brilliant, I'll just do that?
That is a fantastic question, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, it's because it's more so the challenge to myself, and with that challenge, it was kind of like, I was like almost rebelling against what had happened. But yeah, I mean, you may know, but here we run Don't Break the Chain streak sheet. So far we've posted for over 100 days. I think maybe it's like 105 days, unbroken. And the fact that we know we've done 105 days makes it less likely that we want to break that chain.
Yeah.
And we've not broken it so far. So, by setting that standard, it's quite a high standard to set because sometimes you don't have the content or you forget and it's the weekend and you're out, with your family and then you have to slink away and just come up with something,
I'll be back.
Yeah. So yeah, like for me, definitely, like I'm driven by the challenge of doing it. Not necessarily the goal, but the challenge.
You include your family on some of your TikToks, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, early on, I did kind of, so one of the first I went through a series of like, let's call them seasons of Mundoba. And one of them was I'd prank my kids. So I would like say, "Oh, do you want some breakfast?" Yeah. All right, cool. But like the night before, I'd like made breakfast and I'd put it in the freezer, and then I'd come in like, "All right, here's your tea, here's your like scrambled egg on toast." And then they'd pick it up and you'd be like, ding, ding, ding. And then I was like, all right, now I'm gonna freeze a takeaway. Say, oh, come on, I've got us a takeaway. I've got pizza. Bring the pizza box in, give it to them. They open it. Pizza's completely frozen. And we did eat the pizza as well, actually. We're like, just put it back in the oven, yeah. So, yeah, and they're always up for getting involved. You know, my missus jumped on TikTok and called herself Mrs. Mundoba, even though we're not married, because she wanted to get some of that.
She
wanted to get some of that clout. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
Thing is, that was how I first saw you. It was actually I think it was on LinkedIn, and you'd done a bit of a video in the woods behind here, and it was with your daughter, and you was a bit of a showreel to sort of, and I liked what I saw, and in my head I was thinking we need a videographer here because I saw the momentum that marketing was having and the shift to sort of video content and the way it was getting ranked on Google and SEO and all that type of stuff. So I was thinking, well, hang on, we need this guy, and then ironically within a week I think Rob had spotted you as well. But just talk about that, because the way that I sort of positioned that internally was, well, hang on, he's not knocked on our door, canvassed us and given his CV.
yeah.
We've seen a video, we've asked him to come in.
Yeah,
That's the power of that personal brand that we're talking
Yeah, well, that's the content marketing in effect. Yeah, and personal brand, as you say. And yeah, it was interesting actually because I remember us connecting, and obviously didn't really think too much of it. Like, you know, often my focus is on just like building the brand and the numbers. So then we met here, which was like probably a bit surreal, more so for you because you know.
I'd love to see this guy.
We've got celebrity in the building.
But yeah, and that's kind of when I'm pushing the whole personal brand thing sort of internally, you know, within sales predominantly, because that's where it can be best utilized. That's often the example that I give. You know, I say I'm here, no CV, virtually. I mean, we had you could call it an interview, but it wasn't really a formal interview. It was just we had a chat, and bish bash bosh. There we go.
You got to come up with a bit of an idea, didn't you?
Yeah, but which was like freestyled on the spot, really. And it was just like, oh yeah, like the whole Santa thing, and kind of just threw it out there, not really thinking that much of it. And then obviously once everything started, it was like, yeah, so when's this Santa thing happening? I'm gonna have to figure it out. And then, you know, it made it happen, and it turned out well. But yeah, personal brand for me in this day and age, and especially going forward, it is everything. It's just figuring out how do you do that for your personality type. You know, for me, some might argue that I'm quite wacky and in your face. So I can sort of get away with a certain style. You know, the way, just me walking around this office, you know, I'm an anomaly. I sometimes think, how have they allowed this? but
you can turn it to your advantage, because if you're standing out and then you play into it and you can dial it up, your headscarf and different and the shirts and things. Although you've not gone for the wacky shirt,
I've tried, you
dial it down.
I feel underdressed. Yeah, I do feel underdressed. But no, everyone's got a personal brand and something within them that they're really good at in getting their message across, and they've just got to figure that out.
Although we've got three white men wearing shirts, so we've not exactly done.
I forgot to send you the message, but we did try and do this as a homage to.
Are these really?
Yeah.
This flamboyant.
This is us as about flamboyant as I get as well.
Yeah. My flamboyant shirts was in the wash. So, yeah.
This is Matt. Matt is a finance director, and this is Matt's team. Day after day, they trudge through endless stacks of paperwork, like mindless zombies. But luckily for Matt and his team, things are about to get a lot better. Since Spectro has digitized their documents, there's no need for physical copies and duplicates to clutter up the office. And with a fleet of Spectrobots to take care of the mundane, Matt's team have changed the game. Don't waste the potential they've got. Get them a robot with Spectrum. tomorrow's workplace today.
I'm not the most creative. When we're talking about building your personal brand, you just said like there'll be something. I'm thinking. Well, I'm still thinking. That's my issue. So in as much as obviously there's a few things that you've been helping all of us with, but I'm like conscious that I'll crack on and do that. And I look forward to starting to develop that. But outside the norm, I can't turn to song. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whereas you've got all those tools.
So I'll throw you out some ideas off the cuff.
All right.
But before I do appreciate that because we sort of exist in different worlds, so to speak. I mean, sales and marketing, so we're kind of in the same arena together. But I do, and I also appreciate that there is a hesitance or maybe a fear of not being taken seriously or of missing the mark or whatever. But I think in order to succeed, you've got to be willing to fail. And if you just do nothing, then you get nothing. And I think that's the key thing. And I'm not.
No.
Sounds like I'm schooling you.
No. I think it's fair. And I think actually on that, before you came into this building, I think we would have been guilty as an organisation that we didn't want to take some risks. We didn't want to go out there. I don't mind, as we've seen in previous pods, acting the fool or, having the mickey taken out of me. I've got no issues with that whatsoever. It's just I don't have those creative ideas that come out of it.
But we do live in a world, it's kind of the cancel culture thing, isn't it? Where if you do miss the mark a little bit, you can get a lot of bad focus on you. I think
there's a big fear about the negativity.
Yeah, no, that is fair.
The trolls.
I've experienced that to a degree. With my band, for example, we wrote a song about sort of snowflake culture that was supposed to be like an ironic, tongue-in-cheek, satirical song, which certain people within the sort of whole music scene and even some of our fans, didn't take too kindly to, and came at us, and gigs were cancelled because of it.
Really?
And fans of like 5-6 years were lost. But my attitude when that was happening was to never apologise because I'd done nothing wrong, and to just buckets and buckets of content, because now I could respond to this and respond to that, and I think you could argue I'm quite eloquent. I don't think I'm stupid. So I just made the case for the song, and there you go. Same thing happened on in African TikTok because I sort of broke some cardinal rules of African cuisine. They came after me hard.
Wow.
But again, I stood my ground, and eventually it died down, and they were like, "Oh, this guy," because we have a food in West Africa called it's pronounced fufu, but I've always said fufu because I'm from Hull, and so things get sort of mixed up, and they didn't like my pronunciation of it. They didn't like the way I was cooking it. They didn't like the way I was eating it. So then I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna play into it. So I would go, today I'm making chocolate fufu, and you can't make chocolate fufu, and I'd make this disgusting concoction, and I'd eat it and go, it's amazing. And then they go, I can't believe he's making this abomination.
But it was getting likes, and it was getting feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
Which feeds the algorithms.
Correct. And ultimately, you pick a side. Don't play it completely safe. Now, is that going to happen to you guys? Probably not. But
I think
if it does, it'll blow over tomorrow. It's not that deep.
There's a thing that I saw on LinkedIn that was quite interesting from a sales perspective, where they said if you're selling a product that could be, say for example, you could write an infomercial about it and people just go buy now. If you're not selling any of those products, you need to have a conversation. So how would you start those conversations? And then it's a case of, well, what do you do apart from us cold calling, picking up the phone and things like that? So how would you get your personality across? How would you get because people buy from people. So if you're going to have a conversation, and obviously people buy from us, otherwise we wouldn't have a job and we wouldn't be still here. So it's a case of how do we get our authentic self across in a way that makes people think, actually, wouldn't mind having a conversation with John, or I wouldn't mind having a conversation with Neil. But it is a bit of a fear factor because you're like, oh, am I putting on a bit of an act, or am I like, how do I do this? Because you're right. Immediately when you think of content creators, you think of people doing something wacky or doing something a bit more creative, and especially when maybe doing John a bit of a disservice here.
Here we go.
From my perspective, we facilitate a lot of the time the sales, so we're sort of bringing in experts. So we're not necessarily experts. We know it to a level. We can have a conversation about our topic, intelligent automation, and we're talking about process and things like that. And it makes sense at the top level to me. And when we're talking to FDs or ops directors or anyone like that, they get it. And then because they're living it and living the pain, we say, okay, so you've identified you've got a problem to solve. I've got someone that can help you. And we just bring in the experts. And I guess the hard bit that's been a bit of a transition, because really social media has only just become part of marketing in the last sort of 10 years, I guess. Before that, it was, like you say, ads, or it was marketing on the radio or newspapers or brochures. Yeah. Marketing was maybe TV was probably the biggest thing that you could do to get people out there. So again, how do you get attention? So you need to get their attention, and then you need to obviously start that conversation. But
I mean, to get their attention and hold it.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, so going back to you,
specifically,
yeah,
this is meant to be about you.
No, well, for all of you, right? But so Wellesley said, all right, we're better at being the facilitator for an expert to share his knowledge, right? So if I'm you, you've got guests coming in onto this podcast all the time.
Yeah, you
could pull them to one side and say, look, can I just record a quick video on my phone, me and you? And I'm going to just we're going to have like a 2 or 3 minute conversation, and I'm going to ask you like, all right, what's 3 things that are really crucial in your industry, or whatever that thing might be, and boom, you got some free content from this podcast. Also, you've got an hour's worth of conversation where you can just, can I have that splice, give me that. So that's also where you're quite fortunate, the 3 of you, when often a lot of people won't have that. Then you could easily, the things that you do understand, sit down, record a video on your phone and just say, right, you're thinking about implementing this. What are some of the things that you need to be aware of before you do such a thing? And just give that knowledge and set the tone that I'm an expert. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just giving you the knowledge and the information. Film it low key. We've all got supercomputers in our pockets. There's no real excuse that any of us can give other than our own nervousness to do that thing. Or even, dare I say it, laziness sometimes. You know?
True. Yeah. I think that's fair. We could do a little double act, like in the Sesame Street, those 2 old blokes.
Sesame Street, yeah, exactly. we could old blokes in the... yeah, definitely. But there's a difference between sort of creating and documenting. So touch on that.
Yeah, so, again, Gary Vee, all praise to him, would say that the easiest way to produce content is to document rather than create. So... whatever you're doing, and so you did this to an example where you were all in it, but when you had your team play that game, the agile game with the game. Yeah. So again, that's how we were already doing it. So how hard would it be to film it? And yeah, all right, you've got me there to film it for you, but say you're someone that doesn't have that, just stick your phone in the corner, buy a cheap £10 sort of phone tripod thing. I think they're called Gorilla Pods. And just stick it in the corner. You don't need to edit it if you don't want. Just film the whole thing. If you do want to edit it, you can get some really good apps on your phone, such as InShot or Video Leap, where you can just quite easily edit, and it's very sort of user friendly and easy to do. So there's lots of options. It's just having the desire to do it.
And why should they? So why should a small business owner or marketing director of a company that's still, I guess I'm going to say old school marketing, still churning out brochures and what we used to do 10, 15 years ago, why should they embrace this kind of more content-led approach?
I think all of us are aware that this works, right? So if you're on LinkedIn, for example, we all know the big names and even the sort of smaller name, big but not as big. So what would you call them? Medium-sized names. We see them, we see their content, we like it, we engage with it. We know as we look at it, like this must be doing wonders for their brand, business, personal brand, etc. But yet we tell ourselves like some sort of lie or make an excuse to not do it. And I just think it's free, it's easy, and it's a quick win. Yes, you won't do it perfectly straight off the bat, but if you commit to, like I said earlier, if you commit to anything for a consistent period of time, eventually you'll start to get results.
And it becomes a habit.
Win, though? That's the thing. Is it a quick win? Because it does take time, doesn't it? It's not, you're not going to post one video on LinkedIn and suddenly you're overwhelmed with inquiries. You have to build. It's
a quick win in the sense that there's no limit to how much content you put out.
Yeah.
The limit's on you. So, say for example, Neil could post once a week. Yeah, and you could post once a day. So now you're 7 times ahead of him. But then you could post 7 times a day. So in the space of a month, you could go from relatively unheard of, ignored, to getting consistently thousands of views on each video and getting 20, 30, 40, 50 connections or followers every day. And case in point, I was never a LinkedIn guy. I sort of came onto LinkedIn a little bit years ago. Didn't like the environment, like the vibe. Just felt like it's corporate, it's boring. Don't really, I'm not interested. And sort of came away from it. Came back years later and saw that things had changed a little bit. But also, after a conversation with my partner, she just said, why are you going onto LinkedIn and trying to fit in?
Not be yourself.
Yeah, she's like, you never do that. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I switched into some sort of corporate mode. And as soon as I stopped doing that, boom, attention, job offers, within 2 weeks, basically.
Do you think LinkedIn has changed as a platform? Do you think you've adapted to LinkedIn or?
No, LinkedIn's changed massively. Yeah, definitely. And it probably was similar to this then, but I just kind of didn't take the time to explore. One of my mistakes in the past, and advice that I'd give to anyone, is you need to take time to understand the platform that you're on. What's the tone? What's the vibe? What's the what are the I can't think of the word, but the word I'm thinking of. Try and picture it.
I suppose it's the medium as well, because each obviously YouTube is video. Instagram was initially photos and that type of thing, but then it's how long is, so TikTok's obviously short, sort of. And again, it's how you cut that content, but even daft little things logistically about how you actually change the camera. Like TikTok is sort of portrait, isn't it? And then YouTube's mainly landscape, things like that. Just how you chop things up. The one guy that I follow, Alex Halmerzi, he is absolutely blown up recently.
Yeah.
But he did a call with Grant Cardone, and he was like, he's been posting consistently for 2 or 3 years, maybe 1 or 2 videos a week.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone's whole brand is around 10x, just do more. So he was like, do 10 times the amount or 20 times the amount or whatever. So Alex is now absolutely ramped it up, and then his following's just gone through the roof.
He's doing about 80 a week, I think.
He's doing phenomenal, a lot. But then it's across all platforms, so his message is getting cut and split across each one. But then again, there's a strategy behind it. There's got to have, and the content's got to be good. Otherwise, again, people just scroll off.
Yeah, totally.
So it's
so should a business owner pick their platform and say, right, I'm going to focus on LinkedIn, or should they be across all platforms, or how does that work?
They'll definitely have a platform of choice.
Yeah.
Most people who I talk to, if I say TikTok, they're just like, they don't get it. But again, this goes back to go on the platform and understand it yourself, and you'll start to realise that it's not 12-year-olds dancing, in the bedroom. In fact, the vast majority of TikTok users are over 22, I believe. Don't fact check me on that. But basically, I think 75% of TikTok users are adults.
Right.
In my opinion, you should be on every platform. But again, it's one step at a time. Find a platform where it works for you. Get used to that. Get consistent. Then start to incorporate the other platforms.
So are we saying, like you said, have your kind of your chosen platform, but don't ignore the others?
Yeah.
Are we saying that you have to have different content or different styles of content for the different platforms, or are we saying that actually the predominant one that you're targeting, just use that and then reuse it, if you will, in the lesser formats?
Yeah, generally speaking, if content works well on one platform, it's likely to work well on the others. Now, yeah, like Wellesley said, you might need to like reformat the dimensions or whatever. You might need to cut it to make it shorter and just have like the salient points. But ultimately, if something works really well on TikTok, it's probably going to work really well on LinkedIn. You know, for like the video you were talking about earlier with my daughter, the treasure hunt video, that was a TikTok video that did decent on TikTok. And then I thought, well, all right, how can I sort of repackage the message? And sort of went, you know, working parents, if you want something fun and cool to do with your kid, want to get some brownie points from your kids this weekend, try this out.
It's a brilliant thing. I want you to come back to it at the end to keep people listening, because I think it's a brilliant idea and I'm going to copy it at some point. The treasure hunt.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, inspiration, because one of the things you've done really well is brought, I guess, new people, a new world into this business. So who inspires you when it comes to kind of marketing and content?
So there's the obvious ones, but like before I get to them, like I, you know, grew up on YouTube and watching and watching like YouTubers sort of build personal brands and businesses and, you know, massive wealth. And one of my regrets, little side note, was that I didn't get involved in the YouTube sort of world when it first came out. And that's kind of why I was so full on when TikTok came along, because I saw that as like the next opportunity. It's new. This could be the new YouTube, which it is essentially. But the obvious ones would be, everyone loves a bit of Gary V. You know, he's high octane. Is he a bit obnoxious? Sure. But that's all part of it, right? It's that American, like you say, like Grant Cardone and Alex Hormozy as well. And there's a whole slew of these different sort of what Mike Winnett would call a contrepreneur.
Yeah, he does. Contrepreneur.
But Gary V's not quite in that camp. But yeah, you'd say like there's the contrepreneurs like.
He plays contrepreneur bingo.
Yeah.
So there's certain, he gets this bingo card, and basically there's certain things, the backstory and the offer. And
they always do, yeah.
The irony is there that all of that content's come back from a book. So all these marketers, they all, or marketers, all use like this book called Influence. And it talks about the psychology of influencing people. And there's authority. There's basically a few different ones that they all use as triggers. And the irony is they use it because it works.
Yeah.
And when you're doing direct sales, if you're doing it from a sales letter or a video, there's another guy called Jeff Walker that does the product launch formula. So again, it's 3 or 4 videos. It's all about delivering good quality content, and then he upsells you onto a course. There's always a course or a product to be sold at the end. But again, that's the whole point of commerce and business. It's like to sell something.
Yeah.
Like when he takes personal, they're trying to sell me something. And I'm gonna call them a entrepreneur because they're trying to sell me something. I get it that certain people get caught up into the sort of dopamine rush of buy now, I'm going to be a millionaire if I buy this program and it's only $97.
Well, Z.
I love it. I bought loads of them.
I did think he was getting a bit defensive.
But I do agree with a lot of his things, because I'm thinking, my word, my ADHD and my dopamine thing
just starts firing.
I'll definitely, that's easy, I'll do that.
Yeah, not that Gary V. I wouldn't count him as a entrepreneur.
He doesn't do that.
You've got Seth Godin, who sort of famously said that content marketing is the only marketing that's left. Obviously, to some sort of, he got some heat for that, but I think he's right. Rory Sutherland as well. He's a great sort of wacky individual, kindred spirit to me, I reckon. Although very posh. We were talking about posh earlier. He's very posh.
He looks so shit.
And through him, I became aware of concepts like behavioral economics and nudging and stuff like that. So I definitely, if I was gonna, with my team, for example, when I tell them like, we need to you need to be doing your research. You need to discover these people. Those are the three that I would generally push them towards to start off with.
Let's explore that in behavioural economics. What does that mean? Bring that to life for people.
In marketing, I think two things that are undervalued from my perspective is the creative of the advertisement, for example. So there's a lot of focus on the analytics and the numbers and the figures and stuff, which is right, but at the expense of good creative. And behavioral economics would then extrapolate the psychology of the creative and why we're saying and doing certain things, and sort of like nudging people. So, for example, in fact, you and Rob said a really great example about the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. It was that a company put a sign up saying, basically, if everybody carries on taking stones away from the Grand Canyon like they do, then within 50 years, the Grand Canyon will disappear.
Yeah.
And the impact of that was it made people take more stones away because it kind of normalised that behaviour and it made it okay.
Correct. Whereas I think the replacement sign was something like 94% of people leave the Grand Canyon without taking a rock, which then normalises the reverse.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing of like going for the negative rather than spinning it for a positive. So that would be like a nudge, because then it nudges people psychologically towards the action that you want them to do. So, and there are loads of, it's like framing, for example. I mean, you'll know a bunch of these already, but like how are you framing the message, or what does Jane do? Paradigm shifts as well. So it's all about the psychology of the message, and often, we see it on LinkedIn all the time. People will say, this is how you write great copy. Don't lead with what your product is. Lead with what their problem is.
Yeah, what's it going to do for them?
Yeah. And we can often get so caught up in just trying to get our product sold.
Features and benefits rather than...
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, there's a big psychological component. And even Rory Sutherland would argue that marketing team should have some sort of psychologist like in the mix.
He talks about value perception, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I watched something that he said the other day about it's like, again, if you're on a train from, say, London to Paris or something like that, and he talks about it might take 3 hours, for example, and if you give that problem to an engineer, they'll try and make it faster. They'll spend billions on like the train line, what is it, H2 or something like that, trying to make it faster. Whereas he was talking about, actually, if you just fill the train with supermodels, people will want to stay on it longer. So it was the perception of value. It was like, actually, but then I related that to like the Concorde, for example. So the Concorde was in existence for ages. Economically, was it viable? It got people backwards and forwards to New York faster.
Yeah.
But what have they done now? They've made the planes bigger, but they've made the experience of being on those A380s
more pleasurable.
Yeah. You've got lay down beds, you've got a bar in first class, all this type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's the value perception. If you make it, the perception being more valuable, actually spending more time on it is actually shortening. Is that really the solution?
Yeah. And he says there's a lot of psychological wins to be had there, but they seem counterproductive, so they don't get done. And you need someone a bit of an oddball to say, how about we do a podcast? And you'd say, well, why would we do a podcast?
Yeah.
We're a tech company. We're not a media company. And again, going back to Seth Godin, he says that companies market the marketing sort of mechanism of companies requires them to act more like publishers rather than trying to sell products. Yeah. And this is kind of everyone's stumbling now to try and make that a reality. So you start to do things like podcasts, but if you go to your MD or your FD and say, "Oh, I want $1,000 for some podcast equipment," where we barely talk about the product that we sell, that seems ridiculous.
To sell.
But actually, in terms of brand and in terms of attention, it's a great tool.
How do businesses, if they haven't got a backs site in their marketing department, how do you go about creating this and creating content?
They don't.
They need a backs. He's a wizard.
The content wizard has spoken.
Again, it's quick wins. We obviously we're trying to create a certain image and a certain level of quality, right? And I obviously have a certain standard that I want to, that I want my work to have. But there's no reason why, for example, YouTube, say, oh, we want to start a podcast. Well, just get a phone or 2 phones if you want. Just get 1 phone and get a £10 lapel mic, splitter, put them on, sit down, have a conversation. It's that easy. It doesn't have to be. And then maybe that's a good way for a lot of businesses to do it, because they can just try it themselves. And, I suspect most will give up after a few videos because they'll say to themselves they don't have time, or they can't be bothered, or it's not working, or whatever. But you don't need a box. You just need the will to actually want to do it.
Perseverance.
Yeah, And then if you're lucky, you might see a box.
Yeah.
And be able to ensnare him into a cage.
Which is what we did.
Ensnare him into a cage.
So you sent around a piece of content for the weekend around podcasting. What was that? Remind me.
Yeah, I think it was it something like 90% of people don't get past the first 3 or 4 episodes, and then out of that, the next 90% quit. Don't even get to 21 episodes. So if you get to 20 episodes. So if you get to 21, you're already in the 1%. So it's that perseverance.
Where are we at?
Yeah, exactly. I think
this will be 16.
Ooh, we're nearly there.
16, I think. Yeah,
close near the top.
Yeah, we're nearly there. Yeah,
but there's also a thing around that Seth Godin talks about tribes as well. And actually, if you're talking about a particular topic, it's not going to be for everyone, but the people that are interested in it, as long as you spread the net far enough, they're going to find it, and obviously you're going to start. And I saw a statement again on LinkedIn, or it might have been Insta, where it was sort of, if you're talking about a particular topic and no one's listening, stop talking to those individuals, talk to someone else that does want to listen, and then give them value. Because if they, and I can go back in time when I was talking about my fitness and health and fitness stuff and strength conditioning. At the time, if I rewind it maybe 15 years ago, people didn't want to know because they were so hell-bent on body pump classes or Les Mills step-up classes and all this type of stuff because it was in vogue. And I was like, no, we need to be doing strength conditioning and Olympic lifting and all this type of stuff. Now you go into every commercial gym and it's all I got it from because I went to the certain strength coaches that were influencing globally, and I was like, oh, hang on, he's saying this. He trained the most Olympic gold medalists or whatever, so I was like, he must know a thing or two, so I'll start training my athletes that way. And again, it does come down, and then it's how you interpret that and then apply it to your market locally. Because again, you've got some, like you say, big influencers that are global, and then it's like start local. There's a thing in it, start local but think global, and then obviously scale it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about tomorrow's workplace today. That's what the podcast is about. So thinking about marketing, cast yourself forward 10 years. What does workplace look like?
What does the workplace look like?
Yeah.
What marketing in the workplace?
What does working in marketing look like in 10 years' time?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a big automated element to that. So with scheduled posts and I think you mentioned earlier about stuff like Jasper, which will AI that will write copy for you. Paid ads is automated, and kind of the Shangri-La of marketing is to try and if you can crack the perfect sort of paid ad funnel, then it's automated and you've got great content. Then it's just, all right, well, how much do we want to spend on it? Probably not as much as the company you mentioned earlier, but if you're lucky. So there's definitely a big automated element to that, and I think that will increase. I suspect we're seeing more sort of automated elements in terms of video editing as well. So I suspect you'll be able to, your phone will do most of the heavy lifting, and the ease of access for people to do marketing on a personal level will increase. I think possibly actually the need for people like me and agencies and so on will become less and less as people take more of that marketing sort of function and control of that into their own hands. You know, we see it on all of these platforms, but using LinkedIn as an example, how underproduced things can be to still get amazing results. So you don't need to overproduce these days. Ultimately, it's what's the message. And I always liken it to I don't know if you ever did this, but like back in the day, you would pirate a film or get a pirated DVD, and the quality was always terrible, right? But if the movie was really good, then you would stick it out because you'd be like, well, I find this story really compelling, so I want to see what's going to happen. So, you know, if the message is really good, then the production will enhance that to a degree, but it doesn't work the other way around. You can't, you know, I'm not going to say it, but you can't put glitter on.
Probably glitter.
Yeah. So I think, we'll definitely see that personal brand is going to be key, you know, and really could potentially have a big impact on how and who we hire as well. So all right, it makes sense to hire someone like me who's got a personal brand in a field like marketing, because that's my personal brand is an example of my ability to be a good marketer. But what if Wellesley had an amazing personal brand and he works in sales? Well, not only do you know he's going to promote your product really well, but it's bringing attention to your business. It's like bringing free attention. You could have someone who's really who makes really great finance content, you know, who's an accountant, who then you think, all right, well, you're really good, but also you've got a great personal brand. Yeah. And I think that's going to be something that we see as being more important. And, you know, is that going to be an ideal future for everyone? I think it can be. You know, I think people just need to stop overthinking it. You were right earlier in the Andy Warhol. It was in the future, everyone will have their 15 minutes of fame. And that's where we are now, you know, and everyone will have at least one viral video in their time, in my opinion.
Wow. Still waiting for hours, aren't we? But
yeah, it'll come. My challenge to you guys is to let's step it up.
Yeah.
You be my little Frankenstein babies and go out there and make it happen. You know, you've done really well in the past.
Yeah, and then I stopped. I don't know why.
And it's because you lose the motivation to keep going, right? But I don't know, I'm quoting here, but being consistent with content, it's not about motivation, it's about discipline. And it's like when I was doing that challenge, there were days when where it was like midnight and I thought, Jesus, I've still got 4 bits of content I need to make. But the discipline was like, I've said I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, you told me to do it for 30 days and I did it. So I literally the easiest one was just to do a little meme or whatever. And copied it and posted it, but at least I posted something. And
all right, so do it for 30 months then.
Yeah, okay.
That's your next challenge. And it doesn't have to be every day, do you know what I mean? But like, you know, I don't post every day on LinkedIn these days, you know, because I'm busy with the Spectrum marketing. But please believe I'm going to dine out on this podcast footage. Yeah, you know, for the next couple of weeks.
We won't need to clip this one.
The one that, ironically, what I did learn from the 30 days was the one that got the most sort of engagement was me just going for a run on a Sunday, and I took a picture of myself with a silly yellow hat on. And I got absolutely loads of feedback, loads of people that I didn't even know just commented on stuff, saying well done and like bigging me up. And then I had the negative saying, what do I know? What do I want to know about you going on a run for on a Sunday? And all this type of stuff. And I was like, this is odd. I've never had this because I've never experienced it because I didn't really post anything.
Why do you think that did well?
Because it's human, it's social. I don't know. It was just more
showed
personal.
you, I guess.
Yeah, it was just more personal.
Yeah. And also you'd achieved something. We like to see people achieve, especially on a platform like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Everyone can relate to that. Either you're doing it, so you think, yeah, good on you, you're one of my people. Yeah. Or you're not doing it, and you think, I should be doing it. You know, and that's the thing. How hard was it to just go?
Well, yeah. Exactly.
Not in a stupid hat, though.
Done.
The stupid hat, I think maybe
I think it got people's attention.
Yeah. So yeah, there's loads of opportunities like that. You know, there's loads of little quick wins. It's just wanting to do it. What do you want to achieve out of that? You know, do you want a great personal brand? Do you want to make more money? Do you want to do both?
I guess you do have to sort of focus on what is your target market? What do you think they're going to see value in to a certain degree? Because I can very easily go back into my sort of fitness background. And so I'm doing a lot of CrossFit at the moment. I could start taking pictures of me doing CrossFit, which will get engagement because it's weird movements, flipping myself over a bar.
Yeah.
But then is that necessarily going to get me a conversation with the FD? Maybe if the FD does CrossFit, I don't know.
No, it definitely will, because if you go to a networking event, you don't just kind of go up to a group of people and go, "Hi, Wellesley, do you want to buy some automation solutions?"
Course, yeah.
You'd say, you'd go. They might say, "Oh, you're looking well. You look like you keep yourself in good shape." Yeah, I do a lot of CrossFit and blah blah blah. Have a little conversation, and then eventually someone would say, "Oh, so what do you do for a living then?" I do automation. Now, there's a set amount of people you can do that with at a networking event, but what's the limit on social media?
Yeah, vast, isn't it?
Yeah. To be fair,
4 or 5 people versus thousands of people.
About the people that go to the gym now. So I know one who's an IT director and a couple in HR. So I suppose I'm thinking out loud, but the people in that room even still. But you're right, they'll be part of a bigger community.
Yeah,
it's quite.
But online it's scalable, and then imagine that you did that every other day, just drawing people in, get that human connection. Don't really care what you do for a living. Like that'll come out. That's secondary.
Yeah.
It's like let's not try to get them straight into bed.
You first. I trust you.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah.
Correct.
That like and trust.
Don't get him going on CrossFit. Oh my days.
Yeah, we've been given our challenge, boys. So we need to post more content. That's it.
Yeah. You definitely
do. Yeah,
because you're decent.
I've already chosen my clips for this week.
I want you to just tell us about the treasure hunt, because I think it's a brilliant idea that loads of people can use. If you've got kids. If not, it's a bit weird.
So the video that Steve is talking about, you can find it on my LinkedIn, on my TikTok, on my Instagram, on my YouTube. But basically, this was inspired by someone on TikTok, and he and we actually follow each other. I forget his name now, but he posted a video saying, "Oh, you want to do something really fun with your kids? You should bury some treasure and then claim to have stumbled across the treasure map for said treasure, and then let them experience discovering the treasure, and it'll be like a core memory, something that they'll remember for years to come." So I thought, I'm going to do exactly that. It'll be fun for her, and content is everywhere. So I went and bought this treasure chest for like £20 off this antique sort of guy. He had like loads of stuff in his conservatory.
You just get a plastic one.
No, because I was like,
all out.
You've shown your cards there.
It has to be, because I looked online and saw the plastic ones, and I was like, no, because it needs to feel real. It needs to be wood. There needs to be a padlock on it. So I went and got the chest, and then I got like a glass skull, and then I made a treasure map and painted it and stained it with coffee and burnt it, and then put some string around it, put it in the glass skull. Went and scouted out the spot first. I was going to bury it, and then I sort of thought, but imagine I bury it, then we turn up on the day, find the map, go to it, and someone's already discovered it. It's going to be a letdown. So I buried it on the day. So we went to Hessel Foreshore, and my missus kept the kids busy, and I ran off, and I had like a spade, just digging frantically, like just burying, just thinking like people are going to think I'm burying some corpse or something.
Surrounded by CSI.
Put it in, went back, and then told my missus to go put the map sort of over there by the water, by the river, so it's washed ashore. Took my kid over, said, "Oh, should we go over there and check out the water?" And sort of just like led her right near it, but just like acting like, "Oh, I don't know what." And then she, "Oh, daddy, look! Oh, I think it's a treasure map." And then we opened it and we followed the map, and then we discovered it, and it was full of I put chocolate money inside in the end, a pirate flag, which, in the end she didn't want on her bedroom wall because she thought it was too scary. And she still talks about it to this day, and it's been probably a year, 2 years since then.
Love it.
So I advise anyone that wants to get some parent points, especially dads, should do this, but don't use a plastic treasure chest. All right,
that means he's got to dig deeper into that pocket.
I'm sure I'll be all right.
Brilliant. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Bax.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Cut that out.